But there is a massive story that has broke this evening during the games. Morocco have been awarded a 3-0 win in the AFCON final, and Senegal have been stripped of it. More on this, we're joined by TalkSport football correspondent Ben Jacobs, who has all the information. Evening, Ben.
Good evening.
Ben, look, this is a huge story. Just talk us through the process of how they've come to this decision.
Yeah, an unbelievable decision, and one, by the way, that Senegal may still appeal via the Court of Arbitration for Sport. But essentially what happened is Senegal won the AFCON final 1-0. Before they got their goal in extra time, Morocco were awarded a contentious penalty shortly after Senegal themselves had had a goal disallowed, and there was a walk-off that lasted 10 minutes. Now, under the AFCON and CAF regulations, a walk-off of such nature can result in a disqualification because you've left the field of play. But instead of the officials deliberating and deciding to call the match off at the time, Morocco, after play resumed and Brahim Diaz missed a penalty when it started, went on to lose the game and decided that they were then going to take legal measures to try and get what looks like quite a hollow victory. 2 months on, even though the process started shortly after Senegal's win on the field, we've had a resolution from the CAF disciplinary board, and they have decided that Morocco are right and that Senegal left the field of play and under Article 84 should therefore be eliminated. And as a consequence at the moment, and astonishingly, we've got a new AFCON champion subject potentially, as I say, to another appeal at the Court of Arbitration for Sport by Senegal.
Would the Moroccan players be notified before this was made public, or would they be finding out the same way all of us guys have been finding out?
Well, to my knowledge, the appeal was made shortly after the final. So, of course, it looks in hindsight like this has been a very convoluted process. And in truth, it has, because we're 2 months on from that final. But the players were made aware by their federation that an appeal was in. But it is notable that Morocco are not celebrating. The players have not made any statements. It's one thing legally winning AFCON, but they know they lost the game 1-0. And you could certainly make an argument if Brahim Diaz had scored the penalty when play resumed, then Morocco would have had no problem with the walk-off. So there's an element of having their cake and eating it, because Morocco didn't point to the walk-off and say this final should be called off. They waited, they resumed play, they took their penalty, they missed it. Then they lost the game in extra time. And now it's a case of trying to win back a title that they lost on the field via their lawyers. And that's a bad look, you could argue, for both Morocco and CAF, even if by the letter of the law, they may argue, based on the success of their appeal, that they've got a case.
But do you think when Senegal appeal, have they got grounds to appeal, or is this a slam dunk?
Well, the challenge is when you go to CAF, there's a high bar, and also the rules are the rules, and the rules do not state, which is slightly odd, that the officials have to flag a walk-off or have to decide at the time, in real time, on an elimination. They simply say, if there's a prolonged walk-off and 10 minutes counts, then letter of the law, disqualification is the correct approach. And from CAF's point of view, they've been forced to look at their own rules and decide Morocco are right. And as long as those rules are robust enough and there's nothing in the terminology that suggests that that decision can be overturned, then CAS may have no choice. And of course, they will look at the matter dispassionately. To the everyday fan and the football sentimentalist, this looks incredibly harsh on Senegal, but both the CAF disciplinary board and CAS can only look at the regulations, and they are black and white, which is ultimately why Morocco may feel they're going to hang on to this title.
So just confirm it to me then. The rule in place is what, after 10 minutes the game's void. What is the exact rule on this then?
Yeah, there's two rules, Article 82, Article 84, and they're complementary. Article 82 says that a deliberate walk-off, leaving the field of play for longer than a 10-minute period or at that number can constitute a disqualification.
Right.
And then the 82 article is in relation to the game. The other team gets a walkover, 3-0. And then the 84 article goes on to say that you can be kicked out of the tournament altogether.
Right. Okay. So that's the rule. Um, Earlier this month, Morocco, they actually parted ways with a head coach. I think he obviously has left. Do you think they might regret that decision now? Because
Well, I think winning AFCON legally versus the performance at AFCON and the decision to fire the coach are two completely different things. And you look at Brahim Diaz missing the penalty, being in tears, worst moment of his career. That's not going to be undone. He'll remember that miss. And that final to players, you'll know yourselves, will feel like a loss because you chose to resume the game. You missed the penalty, and then you lost in extra time in the rain in a major final. And no amount of legal arguments are going to make the players feel particularly happy about this, in my opinion. But the federation have to defend their players. The walk-off from Senegal was unprecedented. So it's a strange one because I don't think Senegal will be giving back their medals. I don't think the trophy lift and the memories from that will be too soured because Senegal will still claim victory with an asterisk, and so will Morocco. And when you combine all of that, it's just a really bad and messy look for CAS.
yeah, I mean, this looks so bad.
Yeah, I was just literally about to say to you, look, people have got a very reserved opinion about the AFCON and take it sometimes not serious. Does this just add to those kind of woes for them as an absolute, because this is a shambles, really?
Yeah, I mean, CAF would argue that if a federation make an appeal, then they have to see out that appeal thoroughly. So this is just letter of the law. But everything about that final was crazy dramatic and to some extent exposed the frailties behind the leadership. And CAF, I should say, is a part of that because there shouldn't have been a walk-off. The officials should have had more control over the game. Emotions boiled over. And then when you add this in the aftermath, it all adds up to a very chaotic and messy situation. And there'll be no winner now because if Senegal go to CAS and overturn it, then CAF look ridiculous. If Senegal don't overturn it, then people are going to say Morocco are unjust winners. And there's been no transparency, there's been no clarity. And the fact that a simple rule about a simple walk-off and whether a team should or shouldn't be kicked out has taken 2 months, that's also a bad look on the disciplinary process, which ultimately is led by CAF. And then the fact that neither federation has been forthcoming about speaking, there's been no celebration or reaction as far as the host Morocco are concerned. It shows you, in my opinion, that even if they don't admit it publicly, this will be seen in Morocco, and I would imagine by Morocco fans, as a very hollow victory.
Ben, while I've got you, there's a potential transfer story coming out of Chelsea tonight. Enzo Fernandez spoke to ESPN Argentina about his future. He says, I don't know. There are 8 games left in the FA Cup, then the World Cup, and then we'll see. What does that mean?
Yeah, Enzo Fernandez is open to leaving Chelsea. It's as simple as that. But are Chelsea open to selling Enzo Fernandez? No, at the moment, but there's a long way to go until the summer. The challenge is, regardless of what Enzo Fernandez may or may not want, Chelsea are not going to sell Enzo Fernandez, to my knowledge, speaking to sources, for a book loss, which means there's only a handful of clubs in the world that could afford Enzo Fernandez. Some are in Saudi. He doesn't want to go there. Some say PSG. I'm told that's wide of the mark. And Real Madrid is the other club. And my information, very clearly from sources close to Enzo Fernandez, is that if, and it is still an if because there's been no talks or formal advancement, but should Real Madrid come forwards, that's the club of preference that Enzo Fernandez would like to join rather than going to France or Saudi Arabia. But regardless of what the player may want, or if he's hinting that he would like a move this summer, and from the player's point of view, he may think that's possible. We must remember Chelsea hold all the cards. He's contracted until 2032. And I'd be very surprised were Chelsea to engage or accept an offer if it was under a British transfer record.
Okay, Ben, you're a star, mate. Thanks for coming on.
Ben.
Cheers, guys.
There's Ben Jacobs there, TalkSports reporter. Up next, Jason Cundy is coming on. Chelsea were embarrassed tonight. They got slapped by PSG. You can have your say in it. 03 717 22 33 44.